Hey girl, do you wish you could make your healthy habits stick, but life keeps getting in the way? Are you tired of diet culture telling you to shrink yourself when you'd rather just find true food freedom, move your body for joy, and feel and look good in your favorite leggings? Then you're in the right place. Think of this as Atomic Habits for women. Hey, I'm Emily Nichols, habit and fitness coach, millennial mom, and Taco Tuesday enthusiast. I'm here to tell you there is an easier way than what we've been taught about health and our habits. How do I know? Because I've gone from former chronic dieter to habit hacker through the power of the system that I'm now going to teach you so you can finally stop dieting and just train for life via your habits. Remember, it's not your fault your healthy habits haven't stuck. We just have to do them differently. Are you ready to habit hack your health? Then let's do this. You're listening to episode 268 of Habit Hack Your Health. Hey girl, welcome back to the show. I'm always so just amazed that you all listen to this show. Like when I look at my downloads, like we're over 450,000 downloads of the show. And I just hope I've been able to provide some type of habit hack or motivation or inspiration for you to take action and take care of your health and really just help you train for life. Today we're talking about something that I think is really important. That's our own body image, or when you feel disconnected from your own body. Now, I've recently shared my own body image struggles this past month in our Training for Life series as a fitness instructor and the pressure I put on myself. And that episode was so well received. And I just want to thank you all for letting me be vulnerable and share my thoughts and experiences. And the messages I received from you all on Instagram as well really meant a lot to me. And make sure you come follow me on Instagram if you're not already. It's linked in the show notes. It's just Emily Nichols 22. I love having conversations with y'all in the DMs over there. But when it comes down to it, we just aren't very nice to ourselves sometimes, are we? The way we view our own bodies and the comparison that happens, not only online, but I think more so us comparing ourselves to past versions of ourselves. Oh, girl, I do that all the time. And not to mention the diet culture lies that we have been fed since we were young. It's no wonder sometimes we don't talk very nice to ourselves or love the bodies that we are in. However, we are all made differently, right? But also beautifully in the Lord's eyes as well. I know that to be true, but so why do I feel disconnected from my own body at times? Why do so many women I talk to just feel like, ugh, I just don't like the way that my clothes fit. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm just like, bleh. Like, I get it. I know in this season of my life, I certainly have, due to rejection, comparison, and my own body just not handling stress easily right now, and probably early perimenopause symptoms as well. I just shared in my newsletter community just how everything's just so connected in your body. And I learned that even more visiting my functional doctor for a follow-up appointment. Everything's just so connected. It's not just the physical, it's your mind, it's your soul, your spirit, and your body all combined. And I think when it really comes down to it, the way we feel about our bodies really comes from more so external factors and action steps. Like, well, if I do this diet, if I try this workout, if I reach this certain number on the scale or this certain pant size, then we'll finally be happy. But will you be really? Like, you'll probably find something else to nitpick about yourself. And I'm just saying this, knowing this about myself, okay? I think it really needs to start internally. And that's what we're going to break down today with my friend, Ali Sempek. We want you to feel at home in your own body in this season of life that you are in. Ali has such a great perspective that I know you're just going to love. So, let me tell you a little bit about Coach Ali. She is an internationally certified wellness coach and founder CEO of her own women's empowerment company called Ask Coach Ali. After a decade of disordered eating and failing to hate her body skinny, Ali craved more from her life than a smaller jean size. Amen. Today, she's changing the narrative of what healthy looks like by helping women transform their relationships with food and who they see in the mirror. And a fun fact, Ali was a HotWorks virtual instructor a few years back, and we connected on that as I went through the audition process. And she really just reinforced some gut intuition feelings I was having kind of about God's protection and redirection for me in that experience, which I really truly appreciated her perspective and honesty. And she's going to share her own perspective and honesty with you today as well. She has a heart of gold, and she really just wants to help you see the beautiful person you are from the inside out, help you see who you truly are. So make sure to stick around till the end of the episode for my 3 biggest takeaways. Let's go chat with Coach Ali. All right, friends, you are in for a treat today on the show. My friend Ali Sempek is on the show. Ali, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I can't wait. So, the first question I ask every guest is, what is your favorite habit hack? What is just saving your life right now?
So, something that I would say saves my life as well as my clients is just planning ahead. I
Mm,
always joke that you are going to be hungry again. You will. Like there's no doubt in my mind or in yours that you will be hungry again. So why are we acting like we won't be? Right? So planning ahead for a busy day, planning ahead for, okay, I maybe have to go get the kids or something unexpected comes up, right? Having things on hand so that you're not ignoring your hunger cues, not ignoring your own body
mm,
throughout your busy day.
gosh. And that affects everything. Like, hangry is like a true feeling, and it can spill through so many
Understatement.
other areas, right?
Yeah, and it impacts not only like physically, but it impacts you mentally and emotionally. Like
Totally.
you're, restricting food or you're, skipping a meal even unintentionally,
Mm,
right? Our brain doesn't function as well, right? We're
mhm.
quicker to emotions. We physically don't feel good. So, like, why are we doing that to ourselves when we
Yeah.
could just plan ahead?
Plan ahead. Always have something. I always keep chopsticks in my glove box or in my bag, like everywhere I go. My boys know that too, so they end up eating them a lot too. But I'm like, I cannot go anywhere without something as an emergency if I need it to eat.
Yeah, it's a personality trait to have snacks in your bag now,
I
in
like
my
it.
in my opinion.
I like it. That's very true. That's part of my personality for sure. Well, Allie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like what you do, your story that's really led you to who you are today?
Yeah. So it's a, I always joke that it's like a short story long. I can never tell a short version of what it is I do and how I got here, but I can definitely try. So right now I am a women's empowerment coach. And what that means is I work with women to help them feel more confident, healthy, happier, not only in their bodies, but in their lives. I think a huge piece of who we are as women is our emotions and our worthiness. And for so many of us, we have tried to outsource that throughout our lives and asked other people to validate who we are. We've asked, every single question on the internet about what we should be eating or how we should be taking care of our bodies. We're constantly looking outside ourselves. So, a big part of what I do is helping women reconnect with who they are, feeling confident in their own skin, and really just feeling worthy in the lives that they have. Um, how I got here is definitely a longer story, but it starts from all the way back when I was younger. And I think that can be said to everyone's own story. Most of what we have gone through that has made us into who we are did not just start last year, right? Maybe there was a pivotal point last year, but it did not start last year. So for me, it started when I was younger. I really struggled with the way that my body was shaped. I struggled with food. I always thought that if I could just be smaller, I would be happier. And it really caused me to be miserable. I'm talking through middle school, high school, college. I was always hiding behind this facade of being a very confident, outgoing person, which I definitely was. But internally, I was always trying to find a way to be smaller, be what someone else wanted me to be, you know, change my personality, fit in when I just always felt like I didn't fit for some reason. So fast forward after college, I was in a place where I was struggling with anxiety, depression. I was really, really controlled by food and by the number on the scale. And I remember my dad actually saying to me, he's like, kid, doing the same thing, different day is the definition of insanity. Like you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a new result, expecting to feel differently. And that's not how it works. And so I knew like what I had been doing of constantly tracking my food and weighing myself and being so hyper vigilant on what I looked like, that had to change. And so that really turned into now what I coach, which is a lot more of the mindset, intuitive nutrition, really looking at who are you as a person and what healthy habits can we instill in your life that are long term, are realistic for who you are, because every single person's different. So it's kind of the short story long for you.
I know that's always a loaded question. It's like, well, where do I start? Where do I start?
How
I
many
think,
details do you want?
Amy, we could go a few different roads here too, for sure. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And I feel like everyone listening can probably relate to what you're saying as well. Unfortunately, I think we've all been through some period of our life, or maybe you're in it now, where you feel like you have to shrink yourself. And you feel like if I just hit this number on the scale, then I'll be happy. But the route to get there is not sustainable. So it's a constant cycle of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And sometimes there's some shame with that and disappointment and frustration, which I know I can totally relate to. But I'm really glad you mentioned, a lot of times we're trying to outsource our happiness externally versus turning internally. And what does make us feel like ourselves, our best selves, like to our core, to our soul, who we are meant to be. And I think that's so important for people to remember because there's so many people looking for outward happiness, and it really starts with us. And sometimes it can start with empowering yourself with the way you feel about yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I think a lot of what you've said, Ali, is really, a mentality we all thought because we're fueled by diet culture, where we think we have to shrink ourselves. We think we have to follow this 30-day plan that's just
Mhm.
totally not sustainable. And, we talk a lot about habits here and living a lifestyle, but it's really hard for women to have these habits stick because we have to unravel what diet culture has taught us and the lies and change the narrative in our mind where, like movement and the way you eat, it's just part of who you are. It's just a lifestyle versus
Well,
a
and,
diet.
and and to your point, I think we live in such an action-based society. That's what diet culture has
Yeah.
created, right? Like you mentioned, oh, do the 30-day program and you're going to receive this, right?
Hmm.
It's always do this and you're going to get this. And it's this dream outcome that, silly you couldn't do this on your own. You had to pay us to be able to learn how to do this, right? Or you have to, use a product or you have to use a drug in order to do this. That's what you were missing, right? I laugh that my background's actually in advertising. And so when I look at like a lot of the diet culture messages, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting here going, this is the best advertising like gimmick I have ever seen in my life. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're truly connecting to people's emotions and saying, if you do this, you're going to get this beautiful outcome and you're going to finally be happy and loved and accepted. And the kicker here is that it's not about the action. For so many of us, we can do the action,
Mm-hmm.
but as women, we're mental and emotional first.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not understanding why we feel the way we feel about ourselves, why we feel like we need to change, why we want to be smaller, like a lot of the deep-seated limiting beliefs that we hold, then nothing's going to change because
Mm.
we're still holding on to that diet culture mentality, no matter how many actions we take.
So, what are some of the lies you feel like we've been told the most about diet culture, and how can we push that away? Push that away.
Gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
I think the ones that come to mind are like the, oh, eat less and move more was something I heard all the time growing up. Well, just eat less and move your body more. And don't get me wrong, there is like scientific proof to that. Totally. But the problem is most people have been dieting, and now it's getting younger and younger. Most people have been dieting since they were about 10 years old. So your internal system has basically heard that and said, screw it. I'm no longer going to listen because I'm trying to keep you safe. I'm going to try to keep you
Mhm.
alive. You've already tried to fight against me, right? And so, yes, theoretically, eat less, move more makes sense, but we're not looking at all of the other factors of you as a person and maybe all the years you've tried to follow that advice. Um, I think another thing that's interesting, I guess it's maybe diet culture, but it's also a little bit of what diet culture has created is when we look at like the fashion industry, right? A big thing that I hear from my clients is, oh, I'm feeling more confident in who I am and what I look like, but then I go shopping. And then I'm looking at like what, society says I should be wearing and what size I should be and how I should look in a certain outfit. And I don't look the way that other women look. And the kicker is there's not an actual designated sizing chart anymore. There was, I mean, there was an actual sizing like regimen back in the 80s, but they got rid of it. And so now we have what's called vanity sizing, right? And that's a byproduct of diet culture. Go ahead. I know I'm just rolling here.
I'm just like, yes, yes. Well, and I know for me, like I remember going to my doctor maybe about 5, 6 years ago, and I was like, something just feels off with my levels. I'd like to do some blood work. I'm like, I'm gaining weight and I'm, just not feeling comfortable in my clothes. And they're like, oh, well, you just need to move more and eat less.
Mhm.
And
And you're like,
it's, I know, I know that, but also maybe something else is off. I want to investigate a little bit deeper just as far as my levels, but also kind of leaning into, like you mentioned, just the mindset around it and what has just been so ingrained in our brains. And you feel good, like you said, and you go. I've worked with clients before where they're like, oh, they feel so good. They're feeling confident. Their leggings are fitting not so tight anymore. And then they're like, I'm curious. I'm going to go step on the scale. And they're
hmm,
like, I've actually gained weight. I've
yeah.
gained weight because I've been, eating more protein and I've been lifting more weights. Oh my gosh, the number went up and I'm everything I just did is it's gone out the window. And it's like, well, were you just saying how great you felt? Like your body composition was changing. You felt more confident. Something like that can trigger us and just switch that mindset back so quick, right?
100%. I think the scale, again, it's a tool,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't show us all the other factors of a healthy person.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally giving us one data point. That's it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And your weight, if you have more muscle on your body, your weight doesn't actually mean a whole lot to me as comparatively to other factors, right? I think we've also fallen into the trap with diet culture of like the BMI chart. When we go into doctors' offices, they're still using a very outdated system that, funny enough, if you do the research, it never actually was accurate. It's a inaccurate scientific equation that was originally created for redlining cities.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually had nothing to do with the health of individuals. Now, yes, can we say that on the wide end of the spectrums of BMI, you can maybe tell if someone's malnourished or they're, extremely obese? Yeah, duh. But
Sure.
you could probably tell that just in general.
Yeah.
But when we go into a doctor's office, like you're saying, doctors are taught to prescribe. They're taught to look, deeper into medical issues.
Mm-hmm.
They're not nutritionists. They're
Mm-hmm.
not personal trainers. They don't actually have a lot of experience when it comes to how we feel in our bodies and weight loss and weight gain.
Mm,
That's not something they specialize in. But
totally.
we believe that they should know, right? So, like you, they're saying, well, you should just eat less and move more. And you're probably going, I'm a group fitness instructor. I trust me, I move plenty. We're good over there, right?
Yeah.
Um, for someone like me, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've been told I'm overweight.
Mm,
I'm a very normal sized person. I'm extremely healthy. I work out daily. I eat, I eat food that tastes good. I eat food that is good for me, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's that lack of information of going, we need to look at the whole person.
Mm,
Maybe need to look a little bit deeper and say, what are the stressors or what are maybe the mental or emotional reasons that this person is disconnected with their body?
mm, mm. That's a really good point. Why, how they're disconnected with their body. I love how you stated that, Allie, because sometimes maybe women don't feel connected to their body because maybe they were a different size at one point or felt like a healthier at one point, but they're in a season of life now where that lifestyle they were living doesn't fit with their life. So they're trying to force it in and it's not working. And that's when you kind of have to take a step back and evaluate your plan as far as, well, movement helps me feel more grounded. It helps me feel more calm. I have more energy. I have more clarity. I'm not quick to yell at my kids and I'm, it's easier to focus at work and focusing on that versus like, oh, I need to work out 6 days a week and train really hard to be able to be a certain size. And I think you'll find that's a happy medium where you're able to what we talk a lot about here is training for life and
Yes.
realizing, like we say this all the time, like women just have to do habits differently, not just because of like all the tabs open in our heads and all the extra things going on, but because of what we've been taught and how we have to rearrange that in our brain. It's a constant battle.
That, and you also look at not to just do like men and women, but you look at all of the different life stages that women go
Yes.
through that their bodies are going to be correlated with, right? For the most part, when men become men, right, they kind of stay the same
Yeah.
their entire lives because they're not physically going through anything until they're later in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're losing testosterone or something of that effect. Whereas women, we're not only going through puberty, but then you really step into like womanhood in your 20s. Then you might be having kids. Then you're going through menopause. You're looking at all of the things that your body physically has to go through. And that's not just even talking about the life phases.
Right.
If you are having kids and your life is completely different, the majority of my girlfriends right now are new moms, which is beautiful. But that's one of the big things we talk about is that their lives are completely different,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just, oh, I get to work and go to the gym and work out and hang out and do whatever I want. It's now I'm keeping someone else alive. So my priorities are going to be different, right? The way my body feels is going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go through life and the number one thing that I can guarantee is that your body will change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But to your point, I love that you said like it's more about like life goals.
Yeah.
Right? I always tell my clients it's like let's look at life goals over aesthetic goals,
Ah.
right? Because yeah, there's going to be some aesthetic things that we prefer or we might want, but at the end of the day, what's that actually going to give us? Probably not a whole lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas if we look at life goals, like you're saying, like, do you want to be able to play with your kids without getting winded? Do you want to be able to be, mentally clear when you're at work? Do you want to wake up with energy, right? Do you want to be having better sex with your partner? Like, there's so many other factors that when we're actually connected to our body and taking care of ourselves because of life,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so much more beneficial.
Gosh, that's so good. And I'm so glad you pointed that out because, yes, as women, we will be through different seasons of our life, but also physically, our bodies go through different seasons
as well. I mean, just give yourself a little grace. I'm 42 and I'm like, what is going on? What in the world? And I work with a lot of women my age too, where it's really interesting, where we're maybe heading into a little perimenopause. We're doing research on that. Everything, the algorithms figured us out. It's talking all about the cortisol and all the things, you know.
Don't worry, that's over on our end too.
Everybody. But also, you have to think about the stage of life you're in. You know, I have a lot of girlfriends who have worked really hard climbing the corporate ladder, and they're in very, very high stress jobs
Yes.
that they work a lot of hours and their body's changing at the same time. And they're like, I'm still working out and doing the same thing I was doing 5 years ago, but it's not working and it's frustrating. And that's when you kind of have to take a step back. Like we already said, just give yourself a little grace and know that your body might fluctuate as well. And that kind of leads me talking about body image. And that's something I personally struggle with sometimes as a group fitness instructor. I'm on a stage, like literally people are looking at me and I'm like, I am not like, you know, a size two. I'm a very normal size as well, but I feel like pressure to be like shrink myself or like I'm going to lift these heavy weights over here, even though I'm just demoing too, just to make me look stronger. And how society has just really drilled into our brains and our own expectations of what healthy looks like. So, how can we change the way we view our own bodies?
That's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
Because I totally agree with you. I think um, we sometimes forget that even the people who teach this work are still human, right? Women like you and I, we still struggle with our body image. The difference is we've learned the tools to get ourselves out of that headspace and move forward. Whereas in the past, we may have sat in it or we would have let it control us, right? When it comes to changing how we see body image or how we see it in ourselves, it really comes back to having that kind of come to Jesus moment of going, being in a smaller body or looking different. Who is that for? What is it going to give me? Right. I love to ask clients, like, okay, if you want to lose weight, that's fine. Like, that's a totally acceptable goal. I don't want ever want someone to feel shameful for being like, I actually do just want to lose weight. Right. But it's asking that further question of, okay, why? What is it going to give you? Okay. If it's about health and it truly is about like, living longer and feeling more comfortable in your body, wonderful. But I would argue that for a lot of people, that's not the case, right? It's a deeper seated issue that says, I want to feel accepted. I want to feel loved. I want, to heal all of this generational trauma that I have like bottled up inside me, right? So when it comes to body image, I think it's a lot more of our own like mental and emotional work that we need to be doing, of how we see ourselves. And body image is not just physical. I think we think because of the word body image, we assume it's like the body I'm looking at. When in reality, I think body image is more of like, how do I see myself as a person? Right. And we usually are correlating the two. And so, with a lot of the women that I work with, they're going, oh, well, I hate what I see in the mirror. And I'm like, well, what are you saying to yourself on a daily basis? Oh, well, I'm talking shit to myself too. Well, awesome. I don't think that's going to help us, right? So it really goes back to that. It's a mind, body, soul thing where we do have to tap into each different area.
Yeah. And definitely recognizing when you are talking down to yourself, right? Like noticing like what has triggered me to do this? Or is this just something I do every day when I look in the mirror? And with us talking about habit strategy all the time on the show, maybe utilize a little habit strategy, like a habit loop where you find yourself looking in the mirror or, you know, maybe it's summertime and every time you put on a bathing suit, you're just like, I know for me, I always turn around and like, okay, what does my cellulite look like? And I don't talk very nice to myself. And I know like putting on that bathing suit is triggering for me and it'll lead to a routine of talking not nice about myself. So how about that instead? I feel good. This bathing suit allows me to go do fun things with my kids, like water skiing or something. And then you feel a little bit better about it. And you replace that negative habit with a better habit over time. to rewire your brain
Yeah. Well, and
ultimately.
even I would challenge you like, oh, I've had women, feel very similarly about swimsuits are just like,
Okay.
y'all, no one really looks good in swimsuits.
No,
Like I
they're
always joke
weird.
that I look better naked than I do in clothes. So what, but if you go to a pool, you go to a beach, you go to a lake, I encourage you to look at the women around you.
Mm,
And is there a single woman there that looks exactly like what you would picture a perfect woman to look like?
mm,
And do you think that she feels that way about herself? Because I guarantee you, you walk into a pool and you see women of all different sizes, shapes, ages, demographics. And even if you can find one woman that you're like, oh, I wish I looked like her, I can guarantee if you asked her, she would go, oh my gosh, I wish I looked like you. Right? Because we're always taught to want something different, to not
mm,
feel good enough, to not feel like we are fulfilled by simply who we are. And I think the other factor is you can always tell who is walking in a swimsuit confident, excited about the day, who wants to just have fun and connect with the people around them, or the people that are trying to hide.
mm,
And that typically has nothing to do with their body size.
mm. It's more so like your soul and at who you are. Like you said, you're connected to who you are, not your body, not the physicality of it.
Well, I mean, it is. It's very much sometimes it has to be just neutral. I think
Yeah.
that's a big piece of body image is
Mm,
we don't just magically wake up one day and go, "Oh, I am the hottest person alive and I love everything about myself."
right.
Um, if you know how to do that, let me know
Yeah.
because that sounds great, right? But sometimes it's like you're saying, it's a habit loop. It's
Hmm.
waking up and saying, I am going to choose to find the neutral today. Instead of talking badly on myself, I'm going to find the neutral.
Well, I love how you mentioned just being choosing to be neutral in your body, like just be neutral. That's a really good starting point. That doesn't feel very one extreme to the other. It feels really like a gentle way to help you build more confidence in
Yeah.
yourself, you know?
Sometimes it's as simple as saying, okay, if I typically wake up and I tell myself, oh, like, I guess this is as good as it's going to get,
Yeah.
right? We always say some kind of like backhanded compliment to ourselves. It might just be going, you know what? I'm not going to say that today.
Mm,
I don't even have to replace it with anything at first, but I'm just not going to say that.
yes. Yeah.
Right.
Good
And then we
choice.
move forward and go, okay, well, maybe I'm going to say, like, hey, today's going to be a good day. I'm proud of you for showing up.
Mm,
Right. It doesn't even have to be about our bodies.
hmm.
A big thing that I do with clients is I actually have them write down what are all of the limiting beliefs, all of the negative thoughts that you find yourself saying throughout the day. And I have them journal through it. Sometimes they take actually their journal throughout the day and they write things down as they notice those thoughts coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many of them, they recognize that one, they didn't even realize how often they were saying negative things,
Mm-hmm.
right? They were like appalled by some of the things they were saying. And then two, I had them look at that list and say, okay, where did these come from? Who or what taught me this was true about myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a belief is just a thought that we keep thinking over and over again.
Mm,
It doesn't actually mean it's true,
right.
right? And so that's another part of that habit loop that you're talking about of like, we have to understand where it comes from in order for us to change it.
Yeah. I love asking yourself the question, is this true? Because most
Mm-hmm.
of the time it's not. Like I do that with my teenage sons. Like, they'll be saying something about themselves, like they failed at something or had a bad match at something. And I'm like, I'm the worst. I'm like, well, is that really true? And they're like, no. It's they know it's not. They know it's not. And sometimes, like you said, that's just a habit and stopping and being gentle with yourself and reframing the way you think about it. What are a couple of other habits that help you feel you're most confident?
Oh, I always say that I phrase them as non-negotiables, is what
Ah,
I call them.
love it.
Because when I look at my life, there's a lot of habits that I think would be beneficial, but sometimes they just don't make it into my daily routine,
Got it.
right? And so when I look at non-negotiables, I factor these as the things that I know I need in order to feel my best, and I need to prioritize them daily.
Mm,
And if I don't do those, then my day is not going to be as good. But also, like, if I just do those, day is great,
agree.
right? I don't need to do anything above and beyond that. So non-negotiables for me are me and my dog Honey. We go on a walk every morning. Before I check my phone, before I check my email, before I have client calls, we go outside, whether it's for 5 minutes or 30 minutes, to really get my mind right, to bring energy into myself before I push it out to others.
Mhm.
Another big one for me is movement. And I've really challenged myself in the last couple of years to allow movement to be more than just exercise. So meaning like I love going to the gym. I am notorious for being the girl that likes to lift heavy shit.
Love it.
But your body can't do that every single day of your life.
Mhm.
Your body ebbs and flows. It needs different things. So I've been really enjoying like trying yoga classes, maybe going to a cycle class. There's a run club here in my city tonight. I don't run, but I'll take Honey and we can walk and we can socialize.
Love it.
It's doing movement in a different way. And then I think two of the other big ones for me are making sure that I'm eating meals, because I do tend to be a person that when I get busy, I genuinely forget to eat.
Mhm.
And it's like we all tend to do that. It's that self-sabotage that says like, oh, this is more important. I'll get back to that later. I purposely make myself stop, eat a meal, and then get back to what I'm doing. And then water, right? I joke that we are basically glorified houseplants.
Totally.
If we're not getting like air, sunshine, water, and food, life's not going to feel very good.
That's true.
Right. So always bringing it back to like, what are those non-negotiables for you? And I think another big one for me, which, and I'll end on this one, is like being social.
Hmm.
I am more of an extrovert. I need intentional time with people that I like to learn and grow from. Right. And if I don't have that in my weekly regimen, I notice a major mental health drop,
Mm.
right? Because we are built to do life with people.
Yep.
And so you notice how all of my non-negotiables, they're just things to make me feel physically good, but also mentally and emotionally good.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
they have nothing to do with the size of my body or a weight loss goal.
Yeah.
They're about like, how do I live my happiest life so that I can do the things I love to do?
Girl, that is training for life right there. Like you said, you're not training for a certain size, a certain number on the scale. These are what are these non-negotiables, and I'm glad you mentioned non-negotiables, are what ultimately help you feel good. And that feels like a lifestyle. It doesn't feel like you're restricting. It doesn't feel like you have rules. It feels like you have a lot of grace and you're just living your life to feel your best.
Yeah. Amen to that.
I love it. I love it. Well, Ali, where can everyone connect with you and find out more about you?
Yeah, come hang out with me. I always joke that if you follow me on Instagram or DM me, or if you've listened to this podcast, you want to reach out, it is always me that is in my DMs. So it's never an assistant, it is always me talking to you. My Instagram is Ask Coach Ali. It's the same as my website, my TikTok, basically all social media. I'm sure we'll add it to the show notes, but would love if, this podcast resonated, to slide in my DMs, tell me what clicked for you. I would love to just connect further.
Yes, I love that so much. So we'll make sure to link everything that Ali just mentioned in the show notes. Go give her a follow right now. Tell her how much you loved this episode. I'm sure it's going to speak to a lot of people's hearts today. So Ali, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It was so fun connecting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Ali, thank you so much for just sharing your perspective on body image and loving ourselves where we're at right now. Gosh, this was such an empowering episode, an interview for me to listen back to. Sometimes I record these episodes a few months in advance, and I'm like, gosh, it's just great to hear it again and hear that perspective in this season of life that I'm personally in right now as well. So, Ali, thank you so much for that. So, as always, friends, let's get into my 3 biggest takeaways. And it was hard to narrow it down to 3, I gotta tell you. So, the first one, it's not about the action. I think it's really important what Ali said is we're mental and emotional first as women. Why do we feel the way we feel about ourselves, right? What's your diet culture origin story? What did you watch your mom doing? What have you grown up viewing, right? I did a whole episode on that at the beginning of September because we all have some type of diet culture origin story that has shaped really how we view the way we feel about ourselves. And this just really reinforces, again, why we as women must do habits differently and start internally versus externally. I see this with my husband, right? Like, he's a marathon runner. He's getting ready to run another Boston qualifying marathon. And he's just like, it's about the action. Oh, great. Here it is. I feel great. Where it's a little bit deeper for me, right? So we do live in such an action-based society where it's like, do this diet, do this workout in order to feel your best. But you're not going to feel your best if starting from the inside, you're not loving yourself to start with. So we have to start on the inside. And we'll get into some of those habit loops that Ali shared with us because I think that's a really great way to take action. But that's your first step, is you have to start from the internal. No diet, workout plan, whatever is going to fix the inside. It can help, move your body, create those happy hormones, feel good eating the foods you want, but not if you're white knuckling your way through it. There has to be that way unless where it's a training for life mentality, which kind of leads me into my next takeaway. And she mentioned, looking into life goals versus aesthetic goals as the only option, right? I think it's okay. And we're going to talk about body composition soon on the show as well. And it being okay that be like, I want to feel good. I want to look good. That's great, but that can't be the only goal. What are your life goals? What are your training for life goals? I want to improve my bone density so I'm not hurting when I'm older and I can go hike and do fun stuff as I get older. But I think we have to be more realistic with ourselves here. Ali made such a great point. When we think of men, again, why women have to do habits differently, they go through puberty, they're good to go, right? My husband's getting these gray hairs and his goatee. He looks very distinguished. And I'm over here counting how many gray hairs I have on my head right now and be like, can my blonde hair blend in with those a little bit more? I mean, it's a serious issue. Or not really. But we have to think of it this way. Physically, as women, we go through a lot more hormonal changes. There's puberty. There's coming into being a woman. There is having kids. There's all the postnatal stuff. There's all perimenopause and menopause. Girl, it is a roller coaster. Then you have to factor in your life phases, right? Are you just getting started and climbing the corporate ladder? Are you a mom? Are you where a lot of my audience is, where you have climbed the corporate ladder and you're in a very high demanding job and it's more emotionally exhausting with your kids now, right? It is a guarantee that your body is going to change. Okay, let me say that again. Ali said that during this and I highlighted it, underlined it because it's important. It is a guarantee that your body will change. Give yourself grace during these seasons, okay? And lastly, you are a whole person, mind, body, soul. You are not just your body. But again, that's what we always first focus on, the external, don't we? Let's turn it internal. I love to give you a habit loop. I love talking about when you look at yourself in the mirror. If you're saying something negative, flip that script instead. Say what you love about yourself. It doesn't have to be physical. And it doesn't have to be, like Ali said, one extreme to the other. Oh, girl, look at me. I'm so hot. Everything about me I love. No, that's just being not real. There's a neutral spot. There's a middle ground. It can't be like I hate myself and like I love myself times a million times, right? There's a middle ground. Be realistic, be neutral. And one of my favorite questions to ask myself and even my kids all the time when a negative thought comes up is this true? Because more than likely it's not. Take that habit hack with you. If you need some help creating your own habit loops, go sign up for my free 3-day email challenge, Habit Loop Bootcamp. I'll show you how to create your own habit loops, and I give you tons of suggestions in regards to your mindset, food freedom, and your fitness habits. So Ali, girl, I appreciate you and your heart just so much. I personally needed this conversation, and I just want to thank you. Big gratitude for you, girlfriend. I'll make sure to link everything Ali in the show notes so you can go follow her and connect with her as well. And I want to remind you as we finish up with this episode to start from the inside and not the outside. You are beautiful in whatever season you're in. And even if you're not feeling connected to your own body right now, I get that. Use some of the tools Ali shared with us today to get you out of that mindset and into a mindset of what is true for where you are and who you are in this season of life. It's okay. It's not just your body, it's your mind, soul, body, and at your core, truly who you are is the most important. Find the neutral, like Ali said, and start loving yourself versus shaming yourself. You got this, and I am just so rooting for you always. I'll see you in the next episode. Hey girl, real quick before you go, if you are ready to take action in creating your own habit loops, then I want to invite you to take the 3-day Habit Loop Bootcamp email challenge. You'll learn how to create your own cue, routine, and reward from that Atomic Habits for Women philosophy that we've shared here on the show. And it's also available audio only too, so you can take it on the go while you're mom Ubering around town. Just go to bit.ly/habitloopbootcamp. It's linked in the show notes as well to start taking action now. And if you love the show, the biggest way you can support me and other mamas like you is to leave a quick written review so we can help more mamas stop dieting and start training for life via habit hacking. Love and appreciate you.